So I just meant to give you a better heads up on that. I just showed the crash course on the Mongols, and just to integrate into the topic we had of the Mongols and the Ottoman Empire. I wanted a better one integrating the Ottoman Empire one, and I didn't really find the one that would kind of articulate what I wanted to. Um, I just want to mention when I talked about Islam at the gates kind of thing, is that what we just have to remember is that this is a time when Christian power and Islamic power, this is how the world operated. So I think sometimes, people tend to criticize the church or Islam for um, being involved with politics. And what I would argue is not a defense or apology for this, but what part of the world didn't utilize religion in nation building? And we saw with the Mongols, they were tolerant towards religion. They had a great religious tolerance, but it, again, as I mentioned, it didn't stop them from uh, having a ruthless military expansion. So, with Christianity and Islam, when they're fighting for different powers, I mean, for to spread out, and they do it in the name of Christianity and Islam, it looks very easy to say, "Oh, I'm blaming this on Christianity and Islam." But then, when the Mongols did it, um, there wasn't really a specific religion initially that you could have put that on. And so my whole point that I want to say is that I'm a person I'm not a defender of religion or a critic of religion in the way that I think the discussions go on now. As a historian, um, I don't believe that ideologies are as significant as other factors. So I'm not a person that believes that. I mean, you can look at the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia, and it was officially communist, but so many things went against communism there. What you see in North Korea looks nothing like you would see in Marxist Leninism or even Stalinism for that matter. There's some aspects of Stalinism that you could bring up, but there's some very uniquely Korean fusion things going on there that you can't just explain by saying, oh, they're communists. Or look at China. The Communist Party has led China into one of the greatest capitalist superpowers. Well, how does that work? So here's my point I'm trying to say, and I'm actually putting this out as a historical method, not just me and my own subjective opinion, is that if we look at ideology and rhetoric of all regimes, and then we look at their actions, and then we take that same model and we start applying these to other places, we start seeing certain kind of consistencies and inconsistencies, which then draw me to these conclusions, and not just me, other historians. So I'm not saying that intellectual history doesn't matter or ideology doesn't have a place. But what I'm saying is that there's sometimes people feel that if people just got rid of those ideas, that the world would be like completely better overnight. When they see wars and invasions in the name of X, Y, or Z ism. And I'm not a person that believes that that's how it really operates. But I wanted to get you just to think. The point of me, what I'm saying here, is I want you to pay attention when you're studying history to be critical of it. And when you watch people analyze current politics or anything, use those models that I'm saying. Think about, what difference does these things make, and just put on different lenses on how to look at history. And sometimes you might be onto something a little bit better than even people that have technically more education than you, but are not being critical enough about really thinking through about what forces are going on at a given time. Okay, so that's my Okay, so economic depression and social turmoil. Um, I could talk a lot more about these as well. I just think, when it comes to labor history, it's something that people are into or they're not, just like economic history, as I was talking about. Um, what I just simply want to mention here, what's significant about these times, is that we really see the one of the earliest cases of workers demanding political rights. And it's not to say that they didn't before. It's really the only time that we actually see them uh, making a case for their rights. And you were looking in some, it was addressed in the Black Death video, that one of the positive consequences of so many people dying, if we're going to use the word positive, is that there was a shortage of workers, and then so that meant that there was a higher demand for them, and that meant that the wealthy actually didn't just have a bunch of unemployed people or people that they could just grab from, and that people started negotiating prices. People who didn't want to stay somewhere left when before they couldn't have, and so you had these kind of things taking place, and so. And then, with the international trade, as is mentioned, that when Timor kind of destroyed the benefits that were provided by the Mongols, and the banking system falling apart as the way it was. And so you have a lot of forces here that are taking place that are really out of people's control. And what I like to focus also on, as what's addressed in the book, is that not the average person could barely follow all of the sources of these tensions, which is why they often had scapegoats and so forth, which I'm going to keep addressing. So I'm going to move on from this, and then just kind of also address the fact of warfare, because these are the kind of things that remind me so much of what's going on right now in history. Is we have economic problems everywhere in the world, resource problems. It just doesn't seem to slow down politicians from warring. Maybe it gives them incentives. Who knows? But at this time, we see, if you remember the Norman conquest, who were the Normans again? The Normans were Norsemen, basically Vikings, who then conquered parts of France. They were able to get Normandy, named after them. They took on speaking the French language and many customs. And then there was connections in with the British Isles, and ultimately William the Conqueror decided to claim the right to the throne in the British Isles, and in 1066 he does just that. And there's the Norman Conquest, and remember the Doomsday Book and all of that. And so you had this aristocracy in the British Isles that linked itself to the continent and to properties in France and affairs of France. And so as you were reading in the book, the English monarchy, which is actually a French monarchy, was wanting to lay claims in France that French nobles didn't want to let them have. And so, the power play of rich, powerful men over who gets to get what can drag in their countries into wars, rapes, and pillages for a very long time, just so that some elites can get one claim over another. And it's really kind of horrifying. And so remember that the 100 Years' Wars was mainly not so much a war that was lasting 100 years, but a long stretch of fighting in pockets over time that was just not going away. Okay, and the French were taking really hard hits the most, actually. And it led to resistance fighters, and one of them was Joan of Arc, and I think she is a very powerful person and character we want to talk about. So I'm going to stop right here, and we'll return to the next lecture.